I wanted to explain my lighting setup for the images that I'm about to show you, so you can understand kind of, the process. The idea, the concept is stop action with flash, not shutter speed. So the image is basically a breaking wine glass with water in it, and then I'm looking on, and basically I had to composite several images in Photoshop because, well, whatever. So first things first. So here is, I have two Einsteins here. Those are studio flashes, the Einstein 640s, and one Einstein over there with a strip bank attached to it. This Einstein has a, as you can see, a honeycomb grid. It's a 40-degree honeycomb grid, which directs the light, in this case, right at me. So I was over here, and this was directing the light at me. This strobe was pretty much aimed exclusively at the wine glass, which was here, and it had a blue and a green gel in front of it to create kind of this aqua turquoise color, which was a very subtle tint on this clear water. And the problem with that, of course, is not only did I have one gel, but two. And I can show you very quickly. Here they are. And now you can see that there's going to be a lot of light loss, right? I mean, so whenever you put gels in front of a light, there's going to be a drop in output. In my case, I lost about 4 stops. Now, here's the thing. What's kind of unique about these Einsteins, I don't know whether other studio strobes have this feature, but Einsteins have two modes. Color mode, which provides a constant color temperature across the entire output range, which is about 8 stops from full power to 256 power. That's 8 stops of difference. So you can be guaranteed that the color temperature will always be consistent. So if you're doing, product shots where color is super important, that's great. However, you can switch this to what's called action mode. And in action mode, the flash duration is shorter. The actual T1 duration, as it's known in the photography world, is a lot shorter than it is in color mode. So basically, for example, the output of this flash, which is maybe at 1/8 power, is 1/6000th of a second duration. That's really fast. Now this one, because I had to crank it up high to compensate for the two gels, its flash duration was 1/2500th of a second, roughly. Still fast, but minimally what was needed for the kind of stop action I was looking for, which again was breaking glass and water. And then that Einstein over there also had a duration of about 1/2500th because of that strip bank, which has 2 layers of diffusion in it. The outer panel, this white surface here, and then inside there's another layer of diffusion. So I lost a couple of stops there too. So basically, this speed light, which is really only supplying a little bit of fill light, I seriously doubt this is going to affect the stop action too much. This is a LumaPro 160, and at 1/8 power, it too has a duration of about 1/2500th of a second. Now, how does that create stop action? Because for those of you that aren't familiar with this whole concept, you're used to creating stop action with shutter speed. The faster the shutter speed, the more you stop the action. Okay, well, I had my camera set as follows. It was 1/125th of a second at f/22, ISO 50. That exposure setting guaranteed that with no flash firing, I was going to have no ambient light. So my frame would have been black. f/22, because I needed a wide enough depth of field to get my scene inside of it, so it would be reasonably sharp. So since there's no ambient light getting into the camera, the flashes fire, and since the duration is very short, there's, after 1/2500th of a second, there's no light. And even though my shutter was still open, there's no light getting in. So that's how you create stop action with a flash. Even if my shutter was open at 1 full second, if that exposure setting wasn't allowing any ambient light to get into the camera, I still would have gotten stop action. I've done stop action shots where my shutter was open for 2 seconds, but I killed all the ambient light, so it was only being lit with flash. So basically there's 2 ways to do stop action. Shutter, which you're familiar with, that's easy. You just set a fast shutter speed. Or with flash. So, you know, I think that's pretty much the whole deal here. Next we'll look at the images and I'll explain my thought process and how I arrived at the final image. Okay, here we are in Lightroom. And I just want to explain, you know, this process. I'm going to make another video about the actual post-production in Lightroom and Photoshop, because basically I wound up with this image. So this video isn't going to show you how I got here, but it is going to sort of pick up on the photography part of things. So I'm starting here because, you know, I was experimenting. I had basically at this point had 2 Einsteins set up. The strip bank, camera right, and that was sort of, you can see it reflected in this. Basically, this is a champagne glass. You can see it reflected here and also over here. And then that greenish, bluish light. So I was dropping this glass ball in here. And very quickly, I want to go into the develop module because I want to show you something, how super easy it is to get, you know, the effect that you want. 2 adjustments. A little fill light to emphasize all those water drops, because basically I underexposed this image. And then increase the blacks, and look at the difference. So it's so simple to do this kind of work in Lightroom. But anyway, so I was playing around, and finally I wound up breaking the glass with this glass ball. So now it's time to add a wine glass, and at this point I thought, wait a minute, why not make this into kind of a little story? So I decided, well, in my head I knew what I wanted to do. So it was time to get started with the first image, which was putting me in the shot. I metered my scene, and it told me that my aperture needed to be at f11. Well, I knew I wanted to be at f22 because I wanted to have a wide depth of field. So basically, these images are kind of underexposed. Here was my first shot. And I didn't change my camera. That's the point. I changed the light strength. So I changed the strip bank output and got this, but still wasn't enough. So I wound up adding a 3rd Einstein with that 40-degree honeycomb grid to illuminate this side of my face. Well, I realized I was going to have to add some fill light to the scene because this part of my face was pretty much in shadow. So the next couple frames are me. I've now added, wow, it looks like I'm ready to kill somebody. But I've now added the speed light. You can see it's filling in just a touch. And, you know, now I've finally got the exposure I want. So now it's time to actually take the shot. So I sprayed water on my face and didn't really like that. So I took another frame. And this came out the way I wanted it to. Now, at this point, I took out my glass ball because I knew that was going to work. And check this out. I mean, I couldn't duplicate this if I tried. I managed to open the shutter right as the glass ball hit the edge, the rim of the glass. Look at that. I mean, notice how the glass is just starting to crack. So, bottom line is I trashed that wine glass. So I had to get another one. And finally, I got one. So that's the shot I wound up using. Next, I just dropped a lemon in front of the camera and opened the shutter. That was easy. And I wound up going with this one. So basically, if I go back to a library and go into filter, the 3 shots I wound up with were the lemon, the breaking glass, and me. And I got to this. So once again, I'll do a whole video on the post-production process to get this image. But for now, that was pretty much the whole story for the photography part. All right, see you next time.